Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second webinar of our Live Well series. This got kicked off in December with Bern Milnick talking about the reason that we're focusing on wellness and the importance of wellness in our teaching and learning environments. I'm Alice Teall, and I'm here with my colleague, Kate Gawlik. I'm an associate clinical professor at Ohio State College of Nursing, and I'm the director of graduate health and wellness academic programming. I'm also the director of innovative telehealth services. And I do know that people will be coming in. A lot of people are accessing this on their lunch hour, coming in and going out as you need to. We totally understand that. Some people will be listening to the webinar recorded. But I wanted to honor everyone's time and start. And Dr. Gawlik, can you hear me okay? And did you want to say hello?
Yeah, hi everyone, welcome. We're so happy that you were able to join us today. And I am Alice's counterpart as far as wellness goes. So I am the director of undergraduate wellness academic programming for the College of Nursing at Ohio State. I'm also an associate professor of clinical nursing, and I also help to co-direct the health and wellness undergraduate major here at the university. So happy to have you today.
Thanks. And like I said, we kicked off this webinar series in December with Dr. Milnick talking about the importance of student wellness, of clinician wellness, faculty wellness. And you may still hear the question, why the focus on wellness? Certainly, though, we know that 1 in 2 adults in this country have a chronic illness. 1 in 5 adults in the course of a year will have some type of mental health issue. And we also know that almost 20% of students come to campus with a mental health disorder, and of those who do, 75% will have some type of crisis on campus. So learning to incorporate wellness into our approach to teaching and to really reinforce that in student learning is critically important. One question that you may be asked by colleagues is, how can we add one more thing? Certainly when we think about nursing curricula, we know we've got criteria and competencies and essentials and standards and lots of things we need to meet. And sometimes our courses feel like we just have so much in them. And so Kate and I are asked frequently, like, how can we do one more thing? And the answer to that is really, wellness isn't like the one more thing. It really is the foundation of how we build student leadership skills. It's the foundation for how we actually teach. And so when you think about that, any step as a faculty that you make towards really considering student wellness or incorporating activities that support student wellness in what we call a live well classroom type space is really going to have quite an impact. In terms of wellness academic programming strategies generally, what we do is we use what we call a 5C approach. We incorporate wellness within coursework and clinical practice, and we do that by prioritizing a wellness culture, creating a sense of community, and doing that in the context in which students learn. So if you're following, that's 5 C's, and it's a lot. Like it's a lot to think about if you're taking first steps. But if you've already started doing this and you're thinking, how can I broaden my approach? Realizing that students come to us, within this context of uncertainty and sometimes other difficulties, very important. Reinforcing connections to create a sense of community, also very important. And that helps our Live Well classrooms be more effective. So a couple of things I want to say as we start this. One is that we define classroom very broadly. So it can be on campus or online. It can be focused on didactic or objective information or focused on clinical practice. It can be synchronous or asynchronous, graduate or undergraduate. So when we're talking about a Live Well classroom, we're talking about a classroom that's wellness focused. and that it can be any of these things. So I'm going to go through these 5 C's and slow down a little here. And what I really want you to do is think through, how could this be pertinent for you and how you approach teaching? And the first really is context. Our students come to us with experience crisis and challenges and uncertainty. We're going to look in the follow-up webinars to this one today, more specifically at the student experience. But they're doing their academic work and sometimes have clinical practice or work expectations in this context of uncertainty. And we bring that up because one thing that we've learned is not just to ask students, are you okay? But are you okay today? So a lot of times students, if you're generally like, how are you doing? Everybody doing okay? Are going to give you a general response. But if in your assignments or in your coursework or in your introduction to teaching that week, if you ask, are you okay today? I know generally you're doing all right, but how is today going? That's usually going to give you a little more insight about the context in which they're in a course. In terms of culture, oh my gosh, we could have had like the whole thing just about culture and then some. But within a course, some of the ways to support a wellness culture include things like really cultivating diversity of thought, responding with feedback, supporting student collaboration. And one of the very concrete things we do is use positive reframing to support wellness in the classroom. And what I mean by that is, before we really looked at this, like how to create this wellness classroom specifically, I would often ask students, do you want to skip a break today? Do you want to just power through? And to use positive reframing and to create wellness norms, we don't do that anymore. Instead, we do things like, I'll say, let's take a wellness break. Or everyone shut off your cameras, go ahead and get some water or stand up or stretch and allow yourself a few minutes to really process what we just talked about. So that positive reframing and creating the norm to stand, which, by the way, if you have your camera on and you're listening, you can eat if it's lunchtime, you can turn your camera off, you can stand. So the same thing helps with establishing wellness in meetings, in conversation, and certainly in the classroom. To create a sense of community, one of the things that we like to do is to create wellness teams. I really liken this to finding your people, right? So if you are, again, in your workplace, being one of the first to really add wellness into a course, find other like-minded faculty, create a wellness work group. We also like to pair students together and have them support each other's wellness. And the best exemplar I have of that is our Wellness Olympics. What we do with this is we use this as an onboarding. So we have student clinical groups, which are small groups within a course of like 8 to 10 students who actually compete against each other for about a 6-week time frame. They use Qualtrics and they track 4 wellness activities every day. They track minutes of sleep, minutes of exercise, the number of fruits and vegetables they eat each day, and the minutes of stress reduction that they participate in. And they have to track this each day. And then we have groups then competing against each other for first, second, or third in the Wellness Olympics. I don't know about your students, but ours can be a little competitive. It actually has been great fun. In terms of clinical learning, what we look for in this that could be applicable to any type of course or program is we want to be sure that students understand that wellness is defined broadly across 10 dimensions, and that they can focus on those different aspects in clinical learning. So we teach them in nursing that self-care is really important, because if you value wellness for yourself, it'll help you when you connect with others to value wellness for them as well, using this broad definition of wellness. One of our exemplars of that is not only do we focus on student wellness as faculty, but we have our students who support our alumni or other nurses in practice with their wellness. We currently just launched an iteration of the Wellness Partner Program where students are partnering with alumni. So they coach them in wellness. They meet 4 or 5 times over a 6-week time period to really help them with setting goals, setting wellness goals, and looking at solutions for challenges they might face related to wellness. Now, again, that can be a really complex thing to entertain, right? Like, how do we create wellness teams or wellness partners? How can I have peers working together to check in with each other? You know, one of the things that I want to say today is, and this ties back to Dr. Melnick's discussion in December, one of the things that you want to remember with however you want to incorporate wellness in the classroom, that the evidence tells us there are 5 key behaviors associated with well-being. And that is to have 5 fruits or servings of vegetables in a day, have 30 minutes of activity, physical activity, 5 times a week, drink moderation, drink alcohol in moderation, if at all, avoid smoking and use of tobacco products, and sleep 7 to 9 hours a night. So if you're thinking about how to incorporate it in the classroom, consider having students either track these behaviors or reflect on these behaviors. And then the second part of the session, Dr. Gawlik is going to talk about specific things that she has done and that we have done with incorporating wellness into the classroom strategies. And again, I love the little girl on the slide. This is really how we want all our students to feel. She's a little young for the graduate program in which I teach, but I would love for them to feel that energy and to live well. And then, so at this point, I'm going to pass this over to Dr. Gawlik to talk about the things that we can do to integrate this live well or wellness-focused approach into our courses.
Thank you so much, Dr. Teall. Okay, so I know we're kind of throwing a lot at you, but we thought what is going to be very helpful is to kind of break down, like, if I'm going to do anything in my class today and implement something, what is it? And these are kind of like our must-dos. So really, we want to make sure all of our students know where the mental health resources are. So this is something you can make sure you're announcing kind of frequently in class, as well as having it posted on your Carmen site. And then again, just reminding them often of that. Promote that standing and stretching. And so any of you that feel that now is a good time for you personally to stand and stand for the rest of our webinar, that is great. And those of you that don't feel that right now because you're eating or whatever, that's fine too. But really to promote that standing and stretching at least every 45 to 50 minutes, or again, inviting students to stand while you're having class. Breaks, you want them ideally to be every 5 to 10 minutes of every hour. And then hopefully this goes without saying, but really to support them as far as giving them that really positive learning environment where they feel like there's inclusiveness and safety, and then obviously role modeling and leading some of these wellness activities. Okay, so I teach a lot, mostly online. And so I talked to my students at one of the first classes, I just did it last night, about really setting up their classroom at home. So this is something that I tell them about. This is called a surf shelf. It attaches to any treadmill, bike, elliptical machine, and it's just something that allows them, again, to walk on the treadmill, or, you know, if they're feeling really energetic, to run on the treadmill while they're in class and while they're working. So we talk a lot about setting up their classroom for that. And then again, providing some of those invitations to stand. So those prompts to actually actively do these things. This was a concept that I came up with a long time ago, but a lecture size. So incorporating lectures with exercise throughout. And some of these examples So this is one of my favorites, where I put up a picture of a beach, and then I put some music on, and I say, let's go for a jog or a walk on the beach. And people can turn off their cameras, but this works really well both in person as well as if they're getting like a pre-recorded lecture. So just giving them the time to kind of do that in a fun way. This is another one, and I have a lot of variations of this, but this one I usually play Hang On Sloopy, and I invite them to dance in the shoe. So that's a fun one. This is another slide deck that I will do usually with a pre-recorded lecture. So I'll call it the 10 for 10. So every 10 slides, I'll ask them to do 10 reps of something. This will be, sit-ups, push-ups, a variety of different things. This is another variation. So this is what I call the beautiful view lecture. So I just ask them to stand up and walk or move throughout the pre-recorded lecture, or this again can be done in person, as we talk about whatever it is that we're talking about that day. And then on each slide, I put a different really beautiful scene. This was also another way that we've incorporated extra credit or incorporated wellness in, is by giving them extra credit for participation. So with this, what we do is at the beginning of the semester, we ask them to identify one wellness goal for the term. And then every week there is a very brief, like micro learning wellness activity that they are supposed to complete. And this, because it's optional, we give them 0.2 points per week for completing it. So hopefully that we do that to kind of incentivize them to participate. But this, so they have to submit 2 things to the Dropbox. So one, they have to say, what they did that week. So to provide them with some accountability that they actually clicked on it and hopefully did it, but clicked on it to say this is what the wellness activity was this week that I participated in. And then we ask them to say how they're doing with their wellness goal. And I tell them at the beginning, I don't care how you're doing with your wellness goal. It's just kind of a checkpoint for you to bring it back into focus for you again. And so those are the 2 things they have to submit every week. So minimal time for them. Really, it's 2 sentences. And then I try to vary the activities. So like one week they'll do a new healthy recipe. One week they'll do dance videos from YouTube. One week they'll do a mindfulness meditation. So really trying to hit on a lot of those dimensions of wellness. And then another thing that we really try to do and strive for is to incorporate friends and family members. So getting that social wellness, but also helping those surround them participate in some kind of wellness activity too. So when we actually looked at this, so this was done, course 1 was a 7-week course and course 2 was a 7-week course. And the blue is those that achieved their wellness goal. The gray is those who are close to achieving it. And then the orange were those who did not achieve it. So you can see that the students are, and this was done anonymously, are reporting very high rates of actually completing their wellness goal or being close to achieving their wellness goal. And participation is very high when you do this. So only 4% didn't participate in any of the wellness activities during that first course, and 7% did not participate in any during the second. The interesting thing was that 95% wanted them to continue, and 51% said that they would still participate even if extra credit was not offered. So this is something that students really want. This model was also tested in a cluster randomized intervention study. So the intervention group got the wellness activities, and then the control group got implicit bias activities. And what we found was that the group that got the wellness activities, they actually reduced their stress from pre versus post, stress and anxiety. And what we saw in the control group is their stress and anxiety actually went up. The other thing we looked at was their healthy lifestyle belief scores. So we looked at these pre and post, and also what we saw was that the intervention group went up in their healthy lifestyle beliefs following doing these wellness activities. This is our faculty wellness toolkit. You can see the URL down at the bottom. This is available for anybody and free for anybody to go on and access. So again, you can see from the side, there's a lot of different ideas, a lot of different resources of these types of things that you can put and embed into your courses. Under LiveWell Learning, there's a lot of different strategies that are broken down if you are in person, if you are online, and then if you're in the clinical setting. And those are also broken down by the 9 dimensions of wellness. So this is an example of one of those documents. This one was specific towards the in-person classroom setting. And again, it's kind of broken down. This is the emotional wellness section, but it goes through all the 9 dimensions of wellness and gives you some ideas of things you can do within your course or whatever that setting is to include wellness. Okay, so we have a couple minutes left and we are open for any questions. So you can feel free to type them into the chat or I think, can we open mics? We probably can open mics too.
I'm not sure how to do that unless you do, Kate. Unless people just unmute themselves, that might be the...
Or if you raise your hand, I think we can allow you to talk.
Yeah, that might work.
That might work.
Kate and Alice, do you see the Q&A?
Yes, I'm going to read that actually right now. So the question is, I suspect it's a given that students who are healthy and well will perform better academically. That being said, is there data you can point to support this? Yes, there is data. I have seen studies on this, and off the top of my head, I can't point you to one in particular, but I do know that that is there and that data exists.
And I think the other part to that is just probably where we're more familiar just because of who we teach. But we also know that when nurses are well, that their care that they give is more effective and they make less medical errors.
And I will say too, if you look even down to like the level of elementary school children, there's a lot of data to support this as well. I know the CDC has an entire site just on kind of these type of physical activities for the classroom setting. So that research goes, all the way down to that level too. Great question.
Sometimes we get the question about being inclusive when we look at these wellness activities. And Kate, do you have some thoughts about or wording or ways to approach this to be inclusive for faculty who maybe haven't done this before?
Yeah, I always try to, first of all, invite students, and kind of like I did with everybody today when I said, if that works for you today. We all get it. Sometimes we don't want to stand. Sometimes we don't want to participate, and that's fine. Again, it's just providing those opportunities. So, hopefully there'll be certain days where they want to do things. And then, also just to be mindful of people potentially that do have disabilities. So you don't always have to say, walk, it's just movement too. So it's just do some sort of movement as well. So just to kind of be thoughtful about those types of things, but that has come up before for me in class.
One of the other things that I would mention, sometimes we have faculty who ask oh gosh, I don't know where to start. So we suggest the faculty toolkit. But one other suggestion that I do have for you today is to think about having this be student-led. There are definitely courses where they have had students look at the evidence as to what's most effective for wellness and then lead an activity around that. So we have faculty who start their course with reflection that's student-led, and then halfway through with an energizing type of wellness activity, and that can be student-led as well. And so whether this is the asynchronous extra credit or an activity that's student-led during class or a synchronous class, that's been well received.
Mhm. And I see we just had another, comment come through about a resource. So the comment says, I found that messaging around wellness can be made more inclusive by connecting reasons to family history. So that also, I think, is a really, really good point. And then there is a resource that was listed, and I put that into the chat for everybody. So thank you, Amy, for that. Okay. If there are no other questions, I guess please feel free at any point to email myself and Dr. Teall, and we're happy to go through some more of these or provide you with what we currently have. So thank you all for attending, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.